Hey everyone, this is David Danforth, your instructor. Sorry about last week. One of my instructional associates was covering the course and updating everything. I was in the hospital last week, but I'm all better now, at least 90%. So I thought what I'd do is kind of give you guys a quick overview of Illustrator and kind of show you the difference between like Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. So what you're seeing right now is like when you first open up Illustrator, you'll get this screen, and a lot of times if you've used Illustrator, you'll have like previous projects that you've done. What you want to do is just click new, and this is a really important place right here, where it's going to give you some default sizes that we use in the industry. So you can do like tabloid or letter, stuff like that. For your first project, though, you're going to do a 6x6. This is like the semester project. So you just hit 6, tab, 6, and you hit create. And that's going to open up a 6x6 document. Okay. And if it's the first time you've ever used Illustrator, sometimes what I do is I come up to where it says Window and Arrange. Okay, you can see Workspace, and I just come down here and hit Reset. And that kind of resets your workspace in case you have like floating palettes or anything like that. So in Illustrator, these are all your tools. And you'll notice when you click on a tool, okay, there's also sometimes a tool underneath it. So you click and hold it, you can see there's a group of tools under it. So if you click on the rectangular tool, you'll see that you have the rounded, the ellipse, polygon, star, flare, all this kind of stuff. So kind of your first project is I just want you guys to experiment and have some fun in Illustrator, and just kind of play around with it. You know, there's no really wrong way to do project one. It just has to be all done by hand. You know, you can't use any photos or anything like that. And we don't like to use photos in Illustrator anyways. That's for Photoshop. And the big difference between Photoshop and Illustrator is Photoshop is a vector program. So when I'm drawing something in Illustrator, it's doing it all in vector. And what's cool about a vector program is, watch, if I create a new file, I'm going to hit Command N for a new file. And let's say I'm doing something and it's like a 1 by 1, which is a really tiny document, okay? So you can see this is at 1,476%. But if I drop that down to 100%, that's how big it is. It's a very small document, but I can zoom in on it. And let's say I just draw like a couple boxes, and then I'll do another box here, but with this one I'm going to do fill. And let's pick a blue, okay? And I'm going to also do some text real quick. So I grab my text tool, click anywhere, and it just brings in some gibberish, which is fine. So I can highlight that and reduce the size. So this is a really tiny document, okay? Now what Illustrator sees is if you go to your view and you hit outline, this is what it's seeing actually. So it's all like vector. So I go back up to view, okay, and I go on the normal preview. But what's cool about Illustrator is that I can select all of these objects here, okay? Come down here, select all of them, and I'm just using this tool up here, which is your selection tool. I'm going to hit copy, which is Command C on a Mac, and come back over to this 6x6, and I'm going to hit paste. And see how tiny it is? Well, what's cool about Illustrator is that I can, holding down the shift button, make it fit onto this 6x6, and I don't lose any quality whatsoever. See, I can zoom in and you can see that it's tack sharp. Okay, so that's the big benefit of using Illustrator, is that it's a vector program. I can do something that's the size of, let's say, a postage stamp, and then blow it up to the size of a billboard, and it won't lose any quality whatsoever. While if you're using like Photoshop, let's create a new document in Photoshop. Computer's going kind of slow. Well, actually, here's an existing one. This is kind of a cool design. So here's a promotional poster that we did for digital media. Now, if you zoom in, I don't like bounding boxes, but if you go ahead and zoom in, and you'll see pixels. Okay? So Photoshop's based on resolution. So if I design something in Photoshop at a certain size and I try to blow it up to a bigger size, it's going to get all pixelated and look all nasty and stuff like that. Photoshop's really cool. I really enjoy using Photoshop, but when I'm using Photoshop, I have to really be careful about what resolution I'm using. You know, I got to do a super high resolution if I'm making a really big file or something like that, and it takes up a lot of space. So a file like this size right here is 56 megabytes. While if you're doing something in Illustrator, you know, it's a really small file size. So that's kind of why we like Illustrator. Okay, so when you're kind of looking at Illustrator for the first time, you'll notice that you have these different tools here that you can use, and you'll end up using all of these tools. You'll end up using the pen tool a lot. Okay, and there's, you know, a lot of fun ones. Just experiment around with them. But kind of what I want to show you too is that you have these palettes here along the side, and if you click on this one, you have artboards. But the first thing I want you guys to kind of understand is your layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull these off so we can kind of see them, and I'm going to click on this to hide those again. So when I'm designing in Illustrator, usually what I like to do is create a layer for each asset or for each part of the design in case I need to turn it on or off or anything like that. So let's get rid of all, whoops, I was using the pen tool there for a second. Remember, Command Z is a very good tool. So let's delete all this real quick. So let's say I'm creating something in Illustrator. I have this first layer here, and if I double click it, it's going to highlight it, and I'm going to call this background. And this is where I'm going to just put like a solid background. So I don't want a stroke, so I click on this and say no stroke. And I want my background to be dark blue. Okay, so I grab my little rectangular tool, and I click and I hold, and it doesn't matter if you go outside the box. That gets all cut off anyways and it goes to press. So I have my background layer. Okay, and what I usually do is I just lock that, and right next to this eyeball here, which turns it on and off, I can lock it. That way I'm not messing with it. I don't have to worry about it if I accidentally click on it. So I create a new one. On this new one is where I'm going to draw some circles. So I'm going to do, call this one circles. Probably spelled that wrong. Actually, you know what? Shapes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to actually do a different shape size of circle. I'm going to do the star tool because a lot of students like the star tool first. So I'm going to do the star tool, and I'm going to hold this down. And what's kind of cool is, let me do that again for you guys real quick. If I click and I'm holding down my mouse, okay, on your keyboard while I'm still holding down on my mouse, you have your up and down arrows. So I'm hitting my down arrow to give me less points. See? You can actually make a triangle. Or I hit my up arrow. And you can do this really cool, like, looking sun thing. Okay? So, that could be like my first shape. And I can make that any size I want to. That's what's kind of cool about Illustrator. If you hold down your shift, it keeps it in perspective. And whoa! You can make it like super huge if you want. But that's okay though, because sometimes it's kind of fun to have something going off the page. Because remember, it gets cut off. And let's make this kind of a light blue. Alright. So I've got that. Now, I lock it, because I don't want to mess with it anymore. I create a new layer. I'm going to call this one, whoops, got to double click it, text. So on this layer is where I'm going to put my text. So I click once and say, I'm David Danforth. Highlight it, because I can't see it because it's black. And I'm going to make it white so it really pops out. I spelled my name wrong. That's okay. And I can hold it down. If I click and drag or just double click it, you can change the font. So you can make it kind of like a cool font if you want. Let's do Nightclub. One of my more favorite ones. I'm going to make this nice and big. I can just hold it down. And once I'm done with it, I click my little select tool. I can move that over here. There we go. So, you know, you can go in here and do some different stuff. One of the really important things I want you guys to realize is, you know, first of all, layers for everything. That way you can turn things on and off or delete them. And it's just easier to work in Illustrator if you have layers. But one of the most important things I want to let you guys know is fonts. I'm not sure if all of you know, but fonts are system files. That means they exist on your computer system. Mainly because like all of your applications need access to those fonts. Now fonts don't magically travel with you. So if you're designing something for me and you're using a certain font that I don't have on my computer and you send your Illustrator file to me, what it's going to do is it's going to change this font to one of my system fonts. So your design's going to look different than from what I see. So, by the way, that was my phone. Yes, it's Darth Vader. Okay, so what I like for you guys to do is once you make sure it's spelled correctly and you have it there, since your font is not going to travel with you when you save it, then an easiest way to do it is to it's called create outlines. Okay, so in your type, okay, you can come over to I think it's object. Let's see. I think you have to have it selected. Okay. So when you have your font selected itself, you can come down here where it says create outlines. Once you do that, it actually turns your font into a shape. So when you save it and you upload it to Blackboard, then I can see what you designed. But if you don't do that, it's going to replace the font, the really cool font that you found online or something like that, with one of my system fonts, and it's not going to look the same. So that's kind of really what the biggest point I want to get across on this first assignment, and for the rest of your projects too. Now the weekly assignments, don't worry about it. I already have all those fonts. But for the semester projects, you guys might go to like DA font or something like that and find like a really cool font. I might not have that on my computer, So if you come over, let me do that again for you guys. If you come over and you select your text like this, I'm just clicking it, use my select tool, and I come up to my type, okay? And I come down here to create outlines, okay? So what that does is it suddenly turns this font into a shape. What's kind of cool about that too is once it's turned into a shape, you can actually manipulate each one of these shapes if you want to. So for the first project, just have some fun, play around with some of the tools. They're kind of fun to use and stuff like that. Things I would avoid for right now, because you'll get really confused, is the perspective grid. Don't try to use that right now. It gets really confusing really quick. Shape Builder's pretty cool if you want to kind of experiment with that. Don't mess around with the mesh tool right now. That's really kind of confusing. You can use your symbol sprayer. Just make sure you have like a new layer. Let's lock the text. And you can come over to where it says symbols. Okay, so let's drag the symbols down. Students have a blast with this, by the way. So if you come down to your symbols and you click on one, and you can drag that symbol down and get this really cool kind of ink splotch. So we'll put that right behind here. Now you're wondering, Dave, I can't see it. Well, that's why we make layers, because then I can grab this, drag this layer underneath my text layer, and then I can see it. So it's really about organization. So if you have every one of your assets on different layers, and then you can drag your layers from one to another to hide or put something behind another one, that kind of stuff. So you might be thinking, are these the only symbols I got? Oh no. You can have lots more symbols, okay? So if you click on this little button here, okay, it's like a sub menu. Open symbol library, look at all of these. You've got tons of cool stuff. So let's do, this is, I don't know if you have this one, but this one let's do some sushi. Okay, so I got sushi. So I'm David Danforth and I like sushi. So I'm going to drag some sushi over here. Ooh, sushi. So I'll put that down here for now. Okay. And let me go back again, just so you guys can kind of see what's going on. Is when I keep telling you guys it's a vector program, I'm going to go back over to View, Outline, and see this is how Illustrator's seeing everything. It's seeing everything in lines. And you can see kind of how complex some of these illustrations can get. So that's the sushi. And that's what it looks like, and that's how Illustrator sees it. But we just go to View, GPU, View, Preview, and that's kind of what it looks like there. So one thing, if you like to draw, or if you like to do like anime or anything like that, Illustrator is like an awesome tool for it. Okay. So for this first assignment, I just want you guys to have some fun, do some different things. There's like a ton of tutorials out there if you go to YouTube just to make cool stuff in Illustrator. So if you want to experiment around a little bit on that one. And I think your first project, let's see, let's bring your projects over real quick, is due, project 1 is due the 21st. So you got a little time for it. And I make everything due on Sunday, so it gives you guys the weekend to do it. So once you've got it done, let's go back over into Illustrator. Let's say I'm done with this, which I want to be because I want to mess around with a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and do a file, save as. And depending on what your file organization is, then you might save it to your desktop. You might have an applications folder. So for now, what I would suggest doing for this semester is if you have like a documents folder, you click on the documents folder, and let's move this up real quick so you guys can see it. I create a new folder for like each semester. I'll do the ARTC 1353 summer 2017, and I hit create, and I'd call this one Danforth Project 1, and I hit save. It's going to bring up this dialog box. I think everything's fine on here, so I hit OK. A big thing about being a graphic designer is your organizational skills. So for like each project that I do, I create a new folder and I name that folder the name of the project that I'm doing. So if I cruise back over to our course that we're in right now, which is, if you go to the home page, we're in Illustrator, go to my semester projects, go to project 1, and come over here to browse my computer. It's like sending an attachment in an email. Browse my computer, and I go to documents. Look, ARTC 1353 summer 2017, Danforth Project 1, and I hit attach. Okay, so if you come down, you guys can't see that, hold on. Once you have it and you see it right here, go and hit submit. And once you submit it, it'll go into the grade book and I can grade it. Same thing on the weekly assignments too. So if you guys have any questions, it looks like a lot of you guys have already done the discussion board, which is cool. So if you haven't, go ahead and do that as soon as you can. And remember, there's nothing really that was due this Sunday, but I think this Sunday coming up is going to be your first weekly assignment. So make sure to click on your weekly assignments. Wow, it's going slow today. Okay, so lesson 1 is just getting to know the area. You can complete lesson 1 if you want to submit it. That's fine. You don't do a lot in the chapter at all. So week 2 here is going to be due the 18th. Okay, so that's going to be due Sunday night. The same thing. You can click on any of these and it's going to help you with lesson 2. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to send me an email, and I'll try to respond back within 24 hours or if not sooner. I'm kind of addicted to like my phone and my email, so I answer emails really quick. Don't call. It takes forever for me to return a phone call. I'm much more of an email person. Also, just to let you guys all know that I'm on campus all during the week. I'm at Eastfield College in L113. So if you guys ever want to come by and visit or chit chat, or if you have any questions. Also on Fridays, our labs are completely open. So if you want to come in and get out of the house and get some work done, feel free to come by and use our computers. So I hope we have a good semester. Sorry it's kind of a late start. I had a kind of a rough first week of school, but I look forward to teaching you guys Illustrator. Thanks. Bye.